I've always rolled my eyes at the idea of a miracle tone that could heal your brain. A sound that supposedly washes away stress and sharpens your focus seemed like a bunch of new age nonsense. But after a week that felt like a year, buried in work and totally fried, I figured, what have I got to lose? For 7 days straight, I listened to nothing but 432 hertz audio. I tracked my brain activity, my stress, everything. What I found was so unexpected it sent me down a rabbit hole of ancient history, hard science, and spiritual theories. And honestly, I was not prepared for what I uncovered. You've probably seen it pop up in your feed. Videos with titles like Cosmic Healing Frequency or The Sound of Nature. The big claim is that music tuned to 432 hertz, a slightly lower pitch than the 440 hertz we listen to today, is somehow mathematically in tune with the universe itself. Proponents say it's the key to a calmer mind, deeper sleep, and laser focus. Then you have the skeptics and most scientists, who call it pseudoscience. They argue that any benefits are just the placebo effect doing its thing. They'll point out that the 440 Hz standard was chosen for practical reasons, not some sinister plot, and there's just no solid scientific proof for the wild claims about 432 Hz. So what's the real story? Is 432 Hz a genuine healing frequency, or is it just hype? My little experiment quickly turned into a full-blown investigation. I wanted to separate the facts from the fiction, and to do that, I needed to look at the data from my own body and from the actual research. Before we get into the science, let me walk you through my week. The setup was simple. I used an app to play 432 Hz music, everything from ambient tracks to classical, while I worked, relaxed, or tried to sleep. I have to be honest, I went into this as a total skeptic. The first day, I didn't notice much. The music was nice, sure, but life-changing? Not so much. Days 2 and 3 were pretty much the same. I thought the music sounded a bit softer, maybe warmer than usual, but I was convinced it was all in my head. But then, around day 4, something shifted. I was neck deep in a stressful project that would normally have my heart pounding. I glanced at my watch, and my stress score was noticeably lower than on a typical high-pressure day. I actually felt calm, even focused. By the end of the week, my sleep tracker also showed a small but real increase in my deep sleep duration. Look, I'm a science guy. I know this wasn't a controlled clinical trial. It's an N of 1 experiment, and the placebo effect is a beast. Just thinking something will calm you down often does. But it was enough to make me ask, was it really all in my head? Or was something measurable happening? That question is what kicked off my deep dive into the 7 most talked about benefits of 432 Hz. The number one claim you'll hear is that 432 Hz is a magic bullet for stress and anxiety. The idea is that its calming vibrations can literally lower cortisol, our main stress hormone. So what does the science say? This is where things get interesting, but also where you have to read the fine print. There have been a handful of small studies. One often cited paper looked at patients before a dental procedure and suggested that 432 Hz music might lower salivary cortisol. Another pilot study observed a bigger drop in heart rate for people listening to 432 Hz compared to 440 Hz. These findings hint at a real relaxation response. However, and this is a big one, many of these studies are tiny, and the results are all over the place. A review of the existing research pointed out that while some studies show a dip in heart rate or blood pressure, the changes often aren't big enough to be statistically significant. Critics rightly argue there just isn't enough high-quality data to say that 432 Hz is better for anxiety than any other calming music. So while my own experience seemed to match the claims, the scientific jury is definitely still out. Next up, better sleep. The theory is that this frequency helps guide your brain into calmer states by promoting alpha brainwaves. Alpha waves are what your brain produces when you're relaxed and awake, like during meditation or right as you're drifting off to sleep. Is there anything to it? Well, one small study did report an increase in alpha wave activity in people listening to 432 Hz music during a nap. This seems to back up all the anecdotal reports from people who swear by it for a good night's rest. But let's hit the reality check button. The idea that a specific tuning like 432 Hz can trigger brainwave entrainment, basically forcing your brain to sync up with it, is highly speculative. True entrainment is more directly linked to rhythmic things like binaural beats, which are a whole different ballgame. So while 432 Hz music might be relaxing, and relaxing things obviously help you sleep, there's no scientific consensus that this specific frequency has some unique, magical power to boost your alpha waves. It's a cool idea that just needs a lot more research. People often say that 432 Hz music helps them focus and feel more emotionally stable. The thinking goes that by calming the mental chatter, your brain is freed up to think more clearly and manage emotions better. The evidence here gets even thinner, but there are a few breadcrumbs. A pilot study had participants report feeling more focused after listening to 432 Hz music compared to 440 Hz. A few exploratory EEG reports have noted slight differences in brain activity, which could point to an influence on concentration. But again, we have to be super cautious. These effects are subtle, and the studies are small and have limitations. The feelings of clarity could easily be a side effect of simply being more relaxed, not a direct cognitive upgrade from the frequency itself. There's no strong evidence proving 432 Hz is a unique brain booster. It's a fascinating area to explore, but right now, the claims are way ahead of the science. This is where we leave the lab and venture into more subjective, spiritual territory. A lot of meditators are huge fans of 432 Hz music, saying it helps them get into a state of deep mindfulness faster. This benefit is almost entirely based on personal stories, but you hear the same story over and over again. This ties right into the most cosmic claim of all, that 432 Hz is the natural frequency of the universe. People try to connect it to the Schumann resonance, which is the Earth's primary electromagnetic frequency of around 7.83 Hz. The theory is that 432 Hz is somehow in harmony with this vibration, aligning us with the planet. Here's where science draws a pretty hard line. The link between 432 Hz and the Schumann resonance is a mathematical stretch at best and isn't based on any accepted physics. Besides, the Schumann resonance fluctuates. It isn't a fixed number. Any claims tying 432 Hz to sacred geometry or the golden ratio are a form of numerology, not science. While these ideas sound beautiful and profound, they just aren't supported by the facts. So, after a week of listening and a ton of research, where did all this leave me? It's complicated. It's pretty clear that the wild, mystical claims about 432 Hz being a secret healing code for the universe aren't backed by solid science. Most of the proof comes from small, preliminary studies, and the benefits are often exaggerated. And yet, I can't just ignore my own experience. The measurable drop in my stress, the slightly better sleep, that feeling of calm focus. Was it just a placebo? Maybe. But even if it is, does that make it useless? If believing in a miracle tone and taking time to listen to calming music lowers your stress, who cares about the exact mechanism? It seems 432 Hz lives in this weird, fascinating space where personal experience brushes up against hard science. It might not be the cure-all some people claim, but there's enough smoke to suggest it has a real, tangible, relaxing effect for a lot of people. It's not magic, but it might just be a worthwhile tool. But now I want to hear from you. Have you ever tried listening to 432 Hz? Did you feel a difference? Or do you think it's all in our heads? Drop your story in the comments below. My journey started with skepticism and ended with a new appreciation. The supposed benefits of 432 Hz range from having a tiny bit of scientific backing to being purely metaphysical. There are no definitive, large-scale studies that confirm it's a uniquely powerful frequency, but dismissing it entirely feels wrong. The consistent anecdotal reports, combined with hints from smaller studies and my own little experiment, suggest there's something here worth exploring, even if it's just the power of intention. Maybe the real benefit of 432 Hz isn't the frequency itself, but the act of seeking out a sound that we believe will bring us a little harmony and peace. And in a world this loud and stressful, maybe that's a benefit worth tuning in for. Thanks for joining me on this. If you enjoyed this investigation, be sure to like this video and subscribe avso.com for more content that separates science from fiction. Stay curious.